More than 100 people marched in Tucson to remember migrants who lost their lives crossing the border. Many died in the desert. The Pima County Medical Examiner's Office has struggled to identify their remains. As Cronkite News reporter Fan Wang reports, part of the problem is watching remains.
The annual pilgrimage in Tucson is a memorial for migrants who lost their lives in the Arizona desert.
Every cross that we carry that says desconocido or desconocida, it's an unknown identity, but they're full human beings.
Derechos Humanos has organized the pilgrimage for the past 15 years. The crosses represent 137 migrant lives lost this past year. The event coincides with Day of the Dead celebrations this time of the year.
We celebrate those lives, we bring them back to life.
And they ask those who perish in the desert to come back and lead their strength on earth.
And you can see that here on where some of the ribs are attached.
Since 2000, the Pima County Medical Examiner's Office has received about 2,400 remains of suspected border crossers.
It's more than any other single jurisdiction in the U.S.
The medical examiner determines the cause of death, but identifying the victims is more challenging.
That is essentially the nutshell of the problem that we have. It's not necessarily determining the cause and manner of death. That's relatively easy. It's figuring out who they are and then trying to get those remains back to family members.
The medical examiner's office has now been able to identify 35% of those remains. That's about 850 people. And there is not enough space to keep the remains indefinitely.
If it doesn't look like we're going to be able to identify someone in a timely manner, then we can't keep those remains here forever because we have storage issues.
The cases remain unsolved because the remains often cannot be matched to missing persons reports.
The families don't know where to begin. They don't have the resources to begin looking.
Human rights groups such as Derechos Humanos have stepped in to take phone calls from families searching for their missing loved ones. Their 24-hour hotline is hearing from about 100 families every month. Most of the calls are from Texas, followed by Arizona. The 5-hour pilgrimage ends at a historic San Javier mission.
Death is part of now our alleged deterrence policies that doesn't deter anybody who's fleeing violence or hunger or seeking to be with their families.
People lay down the crosses, adding them to the more than 2,000 that represent migrants who lost their lives in Arizona during the past 15 years. In Tucson, Fan Wang, Cronkite News.